This week on Outdoor Bound TV, we make a late August trip to the mountains of British Columbia, Canada, with Martin Degenhart of Fall Creek, Wisconsin. Now, Marty will be taking a series of flights to reach the remote backcountry, where he and guide Mark Mackay will be spending the next 22 days hunting from a remote spike camp with their sights set on harvesting a huge mountain grizzly and a trophy Canada moose. Take a look at this. Yeah.
That was intense.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Real Deal G2 Seeds, Brewpub Pizza, Meyer Recreational Buildings, and Colby Chrysler Center.
Real Deal G2 Seeds. The results speak for themselves.
Brewpub Pizza is specifically designed with the hungry in mind. It's big, it's bold, and it's outrageously delicious. Brewpub Latza Matza Pizza is made with your favorite premium meats and veggies, topped with over a half pound of real Wisconsin mozzarella cheese. When you're looking for the ultimate pizza adventure, when you crave a really serious pizza that brings the great Brewpub experience, this is the one. Pick it up today at your favorite local grocer. Brewpub Latza Matza Pizza, the ingredients for a great time.
Since 1957, Meyer Buildings has offered full design and project management for your farm, equestrian, commercial, and storage building needs. Our recreational building line specializes in the design and construction of affordable, remote area buildings for the outdoorsman.
This is my second Meyer building. I've been satisfied both times. Their design assistance, the quality of the construction, and their attention to detail. It's perfect.
At Meyer Recreational Buildings, we offer custom building solutions for all of your building needs. Log on today for a better way to build.
Because you didn't grow up with a poster of a Corolla on your wall. And during this month's Drive and Discover event, let the pros at Colby Chrysler Center be your pit crew. The new Hellcat, the 6.2-liter supercharged Hemi, puts out a ground-pounding 707 horsepower, making this Challenger the most powerful muscle car on the planet.
Hi everyone, welcome to Outdoor Bound TV. I'm Kurt Walbeck. You know, every year thousands of hunters dream about heading to the mountains. Something about the smell of wood smoke in the air and the changing aspen leaves signal the start of the fall hunting season. On this week's show, we follow a Wisconsin hunter to British Columbia, Canada, where he is about to embark on a 22-day hunt of a lifetime for grizzly bear and trophy Canada moose.
Hi, Martin Degenhart here from Fall Creek, Wisconsin. A good quality moose hunt have been on my bucket list for a number of years already, and I've been hunting with Mark Mackay from Canada Outdoor Adventures probably 5 or 6 years up in Alberta. Well, he bounced the idea off of coming to northern British Columbia to hunt moose with him, just the two of us, 20-day hunt, and then adding grizzly as a second animal as a trophy fee. Well, I had to think about it for like about that long, and I was on board. It's not a simple jump on an airplane and get off in camp. There was, I flew from Eau Claire to Chicago to Vancouver to Smithers, spent the night in Smithers, and then flew from Smithers to Black Lake, and then from Black Lake to camp. Imagine, you know, there's a lot of coordination, a lot of effort, and a lot of people that need to get involved to make this thing all come together. It's hard to imagine how vast the Rocky Mountains in British Columbia are, because you fly for hours and hours and there's no roads, there's no buildings, there's nothing but wilderness and, you know, rugged mountains and glaciers. British Columbia is the westernmost province in Canada, and the Rocky Mountains runs right through the center of it from Alaska all the way down through into the western United States. The flight then to camp was only about a 20-minute flight. And so we fly into camp, and it's just a beautiful little lake surrounded by two long valleys and a river running in and running out of this lake. And just glided gently and sat down into camp and putted over to beach, and there we were. That was home for 22 days.
How you doing, Marty?
Doing good. How are you, Mark?
Good, good.
Happy to be here. From camp, we were looking up a valley that was probably 2-3 miles long. The weather was awesome that first evening. Saw a first grizzly. I'd never seen a wild grizzly before, and he walked across the face in front of us that first evening, but that was just setting the tone for what was to come. Here's home sweet home for 21 days. There's my bunk, my junk, Mark's bunk and Mark's junk. There's the kitchen. That's the dining room. That's the pantry. You know, camp is a tent, a tarp covering up our food, another tarp where Mark and Oi sleep. How you doing, buddy? Now, Oi is a golden retriever mix that is our camp guard, and his responsibility is, while we're trying to sleep or sleeping, his responsibility is to make sure that nothing comes into camp unannounced. And Mark told me that, you know, he'll growl and he'll bark if a moose or a lynx or something is kind of walking around camp, but if he goes tearing out of the tent, barking at 100 miles an hour, he said there's a bear in camp. And that happened 3 times while we were there, those 21 days. You know, I flew in here on a Friday and couldn't hunt because you can't hunt until 6 hours after you land the airplane. And so I went trout fishing, and there's some really nice rainbow trout in the lake behind us here. That's a beauty, huh? Yeah. And these were nice fish. I mean, they were 16, 18-inch fish.
Yeah, nice fish.
Yeah. Mark's making breakfast.
Be right back. Breakfast.
A little bit of Merlot.
Not too much. Still morning.
Coming out of that cold water, glacier-fed lake, that's the best fish I've ever eaten in my life, bar none.
Well, Marty has finally made it into camp there in British Columbia, and after a great dinner of fresh trout from the lake, he and Mark have put together a plan to go after a few of those big grizzly bears that they're seeing on the other side of the lake. Don't go away, you're not going to want to miss this.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Mission, HHA Sports, Big Bear Down, and Bowen Lodge.
This is my life. The weekend warrior. No more production lines or deadlines. This is why I work 5 days a week. I need speed, power, precision. I expect no less than the best. This is my best. This is my chance. This is my mission.
Simple, efficient, powerful. Mission by Matthews.
Optimizer by HHA Sports. The Optimizer Lite Ultra, voted #1 single pin adjustable sight for 10 years running. The Optimizer Speed Dial for crossbows, to-the-yard accuracy with a single reticle. And the Optimizer Horizon, offering unmatched accuracy from both short and long-range firearms. All Optimizer sight systems utilize range dial shoot technology. Ask for Optimizer at a dealer near you.
Big Bear Down. Whether you're looking for a sweet recipe for bear bait or quality hunting products, we've got you covered. Big Bear Down offers all their bait selections by the bag, the barrel, or in bulk. From crushed sugar cones, trail mix, and granola to our syrups, frostings, and bait toppings, we've got the variety to keep the most cautious bears coming back again and again. Big Bear Down is also your one-stop shop for quality hunting stands, blinds, and game trail cameras. Look for Big Bear Down by our distributing at 2 convenient Wisconsin locations or at a retailer near you.
To easily remove the Y bones out of northern pike, first score above the lateral line up towards the back. Second step is to go back behind them on the lateral line and just simply cut underneath them and then just pull them right out. And now you can enjoy northern pike fillets without those pesky Y bones. For more fishing tips, log on to bowenlodge.com.
Last season, we received a record number of photos that you shared with us of animals that you harvested and fish that you caught, and we gave away some great prizes just for submitting your photos to the show. Well, this season, the prizes are even bigger and even better, and all you have to do to be eligible to win is email us your photo or share it with us on Facebook or Twitter.
Prizes include an assortment of plastic baits from Woodcraft Lures, a Yeti cooler from Petrix Service Station, fish taxidermy services from Mike Liga Taxidermy, a trip for 2 aboard the Grand Illusion 2 charter boat on Lake Michigan, and this year's grand prize, a 4-day, 3-night fishing vacation at Sunset Cove Resort on Lake of the Woods, Ontario.
And remember, you can't win if you don't submit your photo. Here are this week's Outdoor Bound TV viewer photos.
It's been raining on and off, more on than off, but it's day 2 and we've been seeing a lot of grizzlies. We saw 7 grizzlies today. That's bear number 7 for today. Young boar that's straight across the lake from camp. We've got a big grizzly, a big boar pegged just behind us here. We're going to go and try and put him on the ground tomorrow.
You know, one of the great things about this place is this camp, you didn't have to go anywhere and you were hunting. We could crawl out of the tent at first light and up with binoculars and spotting scope, and it isn't minutes later that we're starting to see bear already. So the way camp laid is, you know, we're sitting looking across this lake at this burned off face that was, you know, a half a mile to 2 miles probably distant. You know, it was pretty challenging. Some of that's pretty long distance to spot, and even though it looked pretty bare and low shrubs, you know, it was actually pretty brushy, and once I got in there, there was actually quite a bit of willow that was 8, 10, 12 feet tall. And but spotting these bears, as you know, you kind of got used to looking for them and looking what to look for. We were picking out bears like all over the place. I mean, it was just crazy how many bears were up on this face.
Nice bear.
Nice bear, yeah. I think it's
the same one.
I think, you know, I've seen him walk in a full circle.
Yeah, no, I think he is.
Yeah. But we saw several sows with cubs. We saw a sow without a cub. We saw a black bear yesterday across the lake here and a couple of cow moose. And we're just having a great time here in northern BC.
There's a grizzly up on that face there. There's actually half a dozen bears up on that face there, but there's a nice boar. Tomorrow morning we're going to go up and see if we can't take them off the mountain.
So the third day we're ready to go after this bear, and we get up early in the morning and we're just socked in with fog, and we couldn't see across the lake, much less up the face to see where any of those bears were. So we're just kind of in a wait and see mode. Didn't take long to burn off the fog, so we loaded up the canoe with our packs and necessary gear, and up the river we went. And that paddle up the river is you know, a 2 or 3 hour voyage just to get to that point.
Right now there's about 8 or 9 grizzlies on that face right there.
So we start climbing up this mountain, and the first probably half a mile or so was just a nasty thick alder willow tangle. So we fought our way through that alder and willow tangle and got up to the first pile of rocks, and the fog had let up, and you know, I'm glassing the top of this face looking for these bears, and without moving I can see 8 grizzly bears in my binoculars.
Well, Marty and I are making a bit of an effort here getting up the mountain. We camped down on the lake here. We got bears going all around the place up here, and so we just stopped and having some cheese and crackers. Crackers not broken, mind you.
Cheers.
And we got grizzlies just went over the ridge there to drink, I think, and we actually got about 6 or 7 bears across the face here, but right now the one we want would have to be right about there.
Mark, days before this, telling me, so you never ever shoot a grizzly from below. You always get up above them, because when you shoot them, they're going to run downhill. So here I am sitting there. How am I going to walk through 8 different grizzly bears to try and get up to this boar and get above him to put a shot on him? You know, the likelihood of that happening wasn't very good. We had the bear we wanted. We were on the mountain. Now it was time to go after this bear. I think we should go see if we can kill that bear.
Go and get some air out of that boy.
Yeah. So the plan was for me to get out a little bit in front of Mark, and he's going to watch the bear and kind of help me make this stalk. And I'm getting up to a point where I'm kind of losing cover. And the bear's feeding off to the right, and he's getting to that point where he's going to disappear off to the right down into that gorge where the rest of the bears all went off to. So it's getting kind of crunch time. Either it's time to kill this bear, or we're going to have to try and come at a different day. So I'm digging in, and I'm struggling with this because I get underneath the rifle and I slide out from under the rifle because of the steepness of the slope. And that happened to me 3 times, and I finally got my toenails dug in. We see our bear. We don't see any other bears at this very moment. And, you know, it's kind of a now or never moment for us. It's 280 yards, and I'm on him solid, and I touch one off, and I think I hit him pretty good. And he bounces off to my right. I get another shot on him there, and the bear disappears. And Mark is 75 yards down the hill behind me, and he starts yelling. He's coming right at us. He said, quit screwing around and kill him. And there's a little more color involved in that. You know, Mark is a pretty colorful individual. So the whole time Mark is yelling at me, I can't see the bear. And I've got a willow brushing 20 yards in front of me. If he comes blasting through that, it's game over for me. And I turn and look back at Mark, and he jacks one into a shotgun and gets his feet set like he's ready to kill this bear. And I get one glimpse of him as he flashes by at 80 yards. And one thing that struck me is that moment was only about a fraction of a second, but that bear turned and he looked and made eye contact with me at that one split second. And he ran a short distance and stopped. And I shot him again, and I know I hit him hard that time, and down he goes into this thick, nasty tangle. I walk down to Mark. Neither one of us say anything to each other. I sit down next to me. And we're both thinking the same thing. We got a wounded grizzly in a nasty, thick tangle. Now what are we gonna do? And it wasn't moments later, that thought had barely gone through my head, and that bear steps out on a rock pile about 400 yards below us. And he stops and he stands there, and I get solid and I touch one off, and he drops. And you can't tell you the relief that I had not having to go stomping through that tangle trying to chase a grizzly, even though we had a dog with us. Yeah, I wasn't really looking forward to that at all.
Just got down to Marty's grizzly, and a fine bear it is too. Certainly pretty and got some colour. He's a good bear. A good bear.
We came up the mountain and just had to wait for things to settle down, wait for the sows and the cubs to get out of the way. It was kind of dicey, made me a little bit nervous being in amongst all them bears all at the same time, but things kind of just fell into place, and he walked out on the side of the mountain. I made a nice shot at about 280 and hit him again as he came running down the mountain, actually right at us for a little bit of the time. Put another one in about halfway down the mountain, and lo and behold, about 400 yards straight below us, he walked out onto this rock pile that we're sitting on, and I was able to hit him there, and that's what put him down for the count. And I just couldn't be happier. This is just a beautiful bear, beautiful grizzly, and a beautiful place to spend my hunting season. I couldn't be happier.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Naysbaits, Golden Hawk Canoes, Value Implement, and Burzhoff.
Naysbaits. Durable, effective, unique. The must-have fishing lures for every musky angler. Crank it, rip it, fast or slow. Our flagship Livid Fish brings them in again and again. Put trophy muskie in your boat with Naysbaits. Go topwater with our 10 head. From deadly slow to an all-out sprint. Naysbaits. Get it done. Check us out online or pick up Naysbaits at a retailer near you.
Handcrafted in the heart of Wisconsin since 1968, Golden Hawk canoes are inspired by the tradition of early wilderness explorers and modern-day canoeing know-how, customized to meet your exact needs with precision, uniformity, and strength. Our unique, full-contour hull design contributes to stability, whether you're hunting, fishing, trapping, or just spending an afternoon on the water. Handcrafted fun and satisfaction for a lifetime. Golden Hawk Canoe.
Value Implements serves all of west central Wisconsin and knows more stores plus more selection equals more value. And value means providing our customers with a wide variety of quality Kubota products. Value means providing outstanding Kubota product knowledge and customer service. Value means providing the largest selection of Kubota products at 6 convenient locations. Value Implement.
More stores, more selection, more value.
Product and promotional consideration provided for Outdoor Bound TV by these fine sponsors.
Hey Marty, congratulations on a great mountain grizzly bear. Now you will definitely want to join us next week when we have part 2 from British Columbia, where Marty and Mark try their hand at the second leg of this trip, harvesting a trophy Canada moose. Here's a short preview of what you'll see next week.
Okay, I got it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And all the, yeah.
Okay.
Just keep rolling straight through that one.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Whenever you're ready. There you go.
There's darker back here.
Back there.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, is the memory part.
I'm trying to see it.
There's a lot of shade.
Yeah.
Okay. Or start that.